Maria Tall Chief, Jock Soto, Marla Bingham, and so many other sacred brown bodies that have been the hidden artists and creators, the creative warriors of the people who have gone far from their homelands to conquer and cultivate, crafting, training, and honing their artistry and painting the earth with the ancestors' prayers. I want to do for others what Maria Tall Chief did for me, but I want to break apart ballet so the sacredity of the brown body can flourish, rather than feel crushed and suffocated by the institution when their ancestral bodies break this society's superficial mold. For the longest time, I have found solace and love within this creative outlet of ballet, but I have always felt that I didn't fit quite right. If you had asked me last spring to tell you what I had meant by this, I would have bit my lips and shrugged my shoulders, simplifying my words to reassure you that it was just all in my head. But now, with the experience I have gained in my travels and in forming new relations, new Indigenous relations, with people whom I am proud and excited to call my relatives of the artist clan, I recognize what it was that I was missing: solidarity, community, family, relatives with whom I could share the Indian country inside jokes with, those who could understand why tears were not an option, though my heart cried at the never-ending noises and bustle of the cities. I had the friendships that I carefully cultivated in this world, but they could never fully understand where I was coming from and why it was so difficult to be away from my home when so many of them were thrilled with the prospect of being mature and independent like I was doing. But while I spent hours in the studio, training barefoot or on point, I was missing out on my traditions back home. I was missing out on growing with the community that birthed me, and I felt these pains in my body when I looked in the mirror. With my skin-tight leotards and transparent tights, I never saw anything in this brown body that was ever enough. Who is that brown girl that stares back in the mirror? Why can't you see the bones of her sternum like the other girls around her? How come her legs don't travel to her ears and up to the ceiling like the other girls' legs do? Why does she look out the window with faraway eyes from her spot at the bar? Who is that brown girl in the mirror? I wonder if her hips hurt like mine do when I bend my legs in plie, or if her calves and shins ache like mine from trying to hold the 180-degree turnout that twists and tweaks my knees. I wonder if she ever ponders why the teacher always puts her in the back and makes fun of her questions or ignores her words. Did her teachers and peers tell her that her name was wrong too? Did they shorten it and tell her that her name was too difficult to pronounce and simplify it to Than for their colonizer tongues? Who is that brown girl in the mirror? What does she call herself? Does she hold tightly to the sound of her family's voices that crooned her name so lovingly, even when it was threaded with anger? Who is that brown girl in the mirror that stares back at me? I wonder if she misses her family like I do. She looks like me, so maybe we could be friends. Maybe she could be my family away from home. Would she braid my hair? And would we share laughter and tears? Could we possibly grow to love one another? Who is that brown girl with wide eyes that reflect the southwest sunset and the shine of the Rio Grande? As she dances on her toes, I hear people tell her that she is beautiful and strong. Their ballerina, they call her. Their pride, they say. But I see that she doesn't believe them. She curls in on herself and she looks harshly at her body. She hides herself away from her judging, prying eyes, buried beneath layers of clothing that mimicked her mother's baggy style of the 90s. Her armor. Who is that brown girl that stares back at me in the mirror? Does she miss her Seya and Yia's cooking like I do? Does she miss being held in their arms and crave the soft touch of matrilineal love like me? The food I make doesn't taste as good, and I either eat too much that it hurts my stomach, or I stay away from it until I feel faint and cave in. Too much, too little, work harder, beauty is pain. I don't believe you and your injuries. You're weak, and I don't believe you. Who is that brown girl in the mirror that stares back at me with ancestral eyes? Because when I try to look for my reflection, I see nothing.